You don't get rich by wishing, you get rich by thinking differently. Weak minds chase comfort. Powerful minds chase opportunity. Every excuse you make is a chain holding you down. Break it. Discipline beats talent. Focus beats luck. While others waste time, you build, learn, and act. Money follows value, and value comes from sharp thinking and relentless action. Stop blaming the world. Control your mindset, dominate your habits, and execute daily. The truth is simple. Think bigger, move smarter, and never settle for average. Most people move through life on autopilot, thinking the same thoughts as everyone around them, following the same safe paths, and then wondering why they end up with average results. If you want more, you have to think differently. That means questioning everything you've been told about success, money, and limits. It means refusing to accept a small vision for your life just because it feels comfortable. Different thinking is uncomfortable because it separates you from the crowd, and most people fear standing alone more than they fear failure. But that's exactly where power begins. When you start thinking independently, you stop waiting for permission. You stop looking around for approval. You start making decisions based on strategy, not emotion. Thinking differently isn't just about ideas, it's about perspective. Problems become opportunities. Pressure becomes fuel. Failure becomes feedback. While others complain about obstacles, you analyze them and find ways to use them. This shift alone puts you ahead of most people because they spend their energy reacting, while you spend yours creating. You begin to see patterns, recognize leverage, and understand that success is not random. It's built by people who think clearly and act with intention. But thinking differently means nothing if you don't act boldly. Ideas without action are useless. Bold action is what turns vision into reality. And bold doesn't mean reckless, it means decisive. It means moving forward even when you don't feel ready. Waiting for perfect conditions is a trap that keeps people stuck forever. You step forward anyway. You take calculated risks. You put yourself in situations where failure is possible, because that's where growth lives. Every move you make builds confidence, not the fake kind that comes from talk, but the real kind that comes from experience. Acting boldly also means ignoring noise. People will doubt you, question you, and try to pull you back into their level of comfort. They'll call your ambition unrealistic because it exposes their lack of courage. You don't argue with them, you outwork them. You stay locked in on your path, knowing that results speak louder than opinions. Bold action requires resilience because not every move will work, but every move teaches you something valuable. You adapt, refine, and keep pushing forward without hesitation. When you combine different thinking with bold action, you become dangerous in the best way. You stop living reactively and start living by design. You build momentum that most people never experience because they're too busy overthinking or playing it safe. You understand that success isn't about luck or timing. It's about mindset and execution. You see opportunities where others see risk, and you take action while they hesitate. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes depending on how you feel, your mood, your energy, even the weather. If you depend on motivation, you'll only work when it's easy, when you feel inspired, when everything is perfectly aligned. That's why most people stay stuck. They wait for a feeling instead of building a system. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. Discipline shows up when you're tired, distracted, or not in the mood. It forces action even when your mind is looking for excuses. The truth is simple. Feelings are weak leaders. If you let them control your actions, your progress becomes inconsistent. One day you're working hard, the next day you're doing nothing. That inconsistency destroys momentum, and without momentum, success becomes almost impossible. Discipline removes that problem. It creates a standard you follow no matter what. You don't negotiate with yourself, you execute. Discipline is built through repetition. Small actions done daily, without fail. You wake up when you said you would. You do the work you planned. You finish what you started. Not because you're excited, but because it's required. Over time, these actions become automatic. You don't need to think about them anymore, and that's where real power comes from. When your habits run on autopilot, you free your mind to focus on growth, strategy, and bigger goals. People often misunderstand discipline as something harsh or restrictive, but it's actually freedom. When you're disciplined, you're not controlled by distractions, impulses, or laziness. You control your time, your energy, and your direction. You become someone who can be trusted to follow through, and that reliability builds confidence. Not fake confidence from hype, but real confidence from proof. There will be days when everything feels heavy, when progress seems slow, when quitting feels easier than continuing. That's where discipline separates you from everyone else. Anyone can perform at a high level when they feel good. Very few can perform when they don't. That's why discipline creates results that motivation never can. It keeps you moving forward when others stop. The more disciplined you become, the less you rely on external factors. You don't need perfect conditions, encouragement, or inspiration. You create your own consistency. You build your own structure, and that structure becomes the foundation of everything you achieve. Most people never become powerful because their attention is scattered. They start something, get distracted, switch directions, and repeat the cycle until nothing meaningful gets built. Focus is what separates movement from progress. When you focus, you concentrate your energy on one objective long enough to actually make an impact. Instead of spreading yourself thin across 10 different things, you go deep into one, and that depth creates results. Focus is a decision. It means saying no more than you say yes. Every distraction you allow into your life weakens your ability to perform at a high level. Social media, constant notifications, unnecessary conversations. These are all leaks draining your attention. And attention is one of your most valuable assets. Where your attention goes, your results follow. If you can't control it, you can't control your future. Real focus requires discipline. You set a clear target and commit to it fully. No half effort, no constant switching. You stay locked in even when it becomes repetitive or difficult. That's where most people fall off. They chase excitement instead of mastery. But power doesn't come from doing many things at once. It comes from doing one thing exceptionally well. Mastery demands time and consistency, and both require focus. When you focus deeply, you start to see progress faster. Skills improve, understanding sharpens, and opportunities become clearer. You begin to operate with precision instead of randomness. Your decisions become more calculated, your actions more effective. This is where power starts to build, not from force, but from clarity and control. Focus also strengthens your mind. In a world full of distractions, the ability to stay locked into a task is rare. That rarity itself becomes an advantage. While others are constantly pulled in different directions, you remain steady. You finish what you start. You build momentum that compounds over time. There will always be noise trying to break your concentration. People, trends, and external pressures will try to pull you away from your path. If you give in, you lose your edge. If you stay focused, you gain it. Power is not loud or chaotic. It's controlled and directed. It comes from knowing exactly what you're doing and putting your full energy into it without interruption. Excuses are the fastest way to kill progress. They sound harmless, even logical. But every excuse you accept becomes a barrier between you and success. People don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they justify inaction. There's always a reason to delay, to avoid discomfort, to take the easy path. If you listen to those reasons, you stay exactly where you are. Excuses give you temporary comfort, but cost you long-term results. The dangerous part about excuses is how convincing they are. You tell yourself you're too tired, not ready, lacking resources, or waiting for the right moment. It feels reasonable, but it's just avoidance in disguise. The truth is, conditions are never perfect. There will always be obstacles, limitations, and uncertainty. The people who succeed are the ones who move forward anyway. They don't waste time explaining why something can't be done. They figure out how to make it happen. Every time you make an excuse, you reinforce a weak mindset. You train yourself to escape responsibility instead of taking control. Over time, this becomes a habit, and that habit shapes your identity. You start to see yourself as someone who talks more than they act, someone who plans but never executes. That identity will keep you stuck no matter how big your goals are. Success requires ownership, full responsibility for your actions, your results, and your situation. Blaming circumstances, other people, or bad luck changes nothing. It only shifts your focus away from what you can control. When you eliminate excuses, you shift your mindset completely. You stop looking for reasons to stop and start looking for ways to continue. That shift alone creates momentum. There will be moments when things are genuinely difficult. You'll face setbacks, failures, and unexpected problems. Excuses won't solve any of them. Action will. Even small steps forward are more valuable than perfect plans that never get executed. Progress comes from movement, not explanation. When you remove excuses, you become more disciplined, more focused, and more resilient. You stop negotiating with yourself and start demanding more from your actions. You hold yourself to a higher standard, and that standard pushes you forward every single day. Money doesn't appear out of nowhere. It follows value. If you're not building something useful, something rare, or something in demand, you're not going to get paid at a high level. Most people focus on what they want to earn instead of what they need to become. That's backwards. Income is a reflection of value, and value is built through skills, knowledge, and execution. If you increase those consistently, your results have no choice but to improve. Building value means becoming someone who solves problems. The bigger the problem you can solve, the more valuable you become. It's not about doing random work, it's about doing work that matters. Learn skills that create impact. Communication, sales, strategy, technical ability. Then sharpen them daily. You don't dabble, you commit. You push past the beginner stage where most people quit and reach a level where your abilities stand out. Relentless means you don't stop when it gets boring or difficult. Growth is repetitive. It requires doing the same things over and over until they become second nature. Most people lose interest when the excitement fades, but that's exactly where real progress begins. If you can stay consistent in that phase, you separate yourself immediately. You become rare because very few people are willing to endure that level of repetition. You also have to be intentional about where you invest your time. Not all effort creates value. Busy work doesn't count. Scrolling, overthinking, and distractions don't build anything. You need focused effort on activities that actually move you forward. That might mean studying when others relax, practicing when others hesitate, or working longer when others stop early. The difference compounds over time. Value also grows when you take action, not just when you learn. Knowledge without execution is wasted potential. You apply what you learn, test it, fail, adjust, and improve. That cycle builds real experience, and experience is what makes you effective. The more you go through that process, the sharper you become. As your value increases, your confidence grows with it. Not from empty words, but from proof. You know what you can do because you've done it repeatedly. That confidence changes how you think, how you speak, and how you operate. People recognize it, and opportunities start to follow. If you stay relentless, you reach a point where your skills speak for you. You don't have to chase validation or approval. Your work creates results, and those results create leverage. At that stage, you're not just participating, you're competing at a higher level where fewer people can keep up. Your mindset is the control center of everything you do. If it's weak, your actions will be weak. If it's strong, your actions follow. Most people let their thoughts run unchecked, reacting to every situation with emotion instead of intention. That lack of control keeps them stuck in cycles of doubt, hesitation, and inconsistency. If you don't take control of your mindset, something else will. Stress, fear, or other people's opinions. Control starts with awareness. You have to notice how you think before you can change it. When something goes wrong, do you look for solutions or do you complain? When things get difficult, do you push forward or do you retreat? These patterns define your results. Once you recognize them, you can start replacing weak thinking with stronger responses. Not by pretending everything is easy, but by choosing to respond with clarity instead of emotion. A controlled mindset doesn't mean you never feel pressure or doubt. It means you don't let those feelings dictate your actions. You feel them, but you move anyway. You stay focused on what needs to be done instead of how you feel about it. That level of control creates consistency, and consistency is what builds progress over time. You also have to protect your mindset from external influence. The people you listen to, the content you consume, the environment you stay in, all of it shapes how you think. If you surround yourself with negativity, excuses, and low standards, it will affect you, whether you realize it or not. Control means being selective. You choose inputs that strengthen your thinking, not weaken it. Discipline plays a role here too. You train your mind the same way you train your body. Through repetition, you replace hesitation with action, doubt with preparation, and distraction with focus. Over time, your default thinking changes. You become more resilient, more composed, and more decisive. When your mindset is controlled, you don't panic under pressure. You analyze, adjust, and act. You don't get distracted easily because you know what matters. You don't depend on motivation because your thinking is already aligned with your goals. That alignment creates stability, and that stability allows you to perform at a higher level regardless of the situation. Average is a trap disguised as comfort. It feels safe because everyone around you accepts it. You do enough to get by, avoid risk, and blend in with the crowd. But that comfort comes at a cost. The moment you accept average, you stop growing. You stop pushing your limits, and over time, your potential fades into routine. Most people don't fail dramatically. They slowly settle into a life that's far below what they're capable of. Refusing to be average starts with standards. You decide that good enough is no longer acceptable. You expect more from your work, your habits, and your mindset. That doesn't mean chasing perfection. It means refusing to cut corners or lower your effort just because it's easier. When you raise your standards, your behavior changes automatically. You start paying attention to details, finishing tasks properly, and holding yourself accountable. There will always be pressure to settle. People around you might not understand your drive. They'll tell you to relax, slow down, or be realistic. What they really mean is to come back to their level because your ambition makes them uncomfortable. If you listen, you shrink. If you stay firm, you grow. You don't need approval to aim higher. You need discipline to keep going when it's inconvenient. Rejecting average also means embracing discomfort. Growth is not easy. It requires effort, consistency, and the willingness to do things others avoid. Early mornings, long hours, focused practice. These are not glamorous, but they are necessary. While others choose convenience, you choose progress. That difference separates outcomes over time. You also have to measure yourself honestly. Are you improving or just staying busy? Are you challenging yourself or repeating what's easy? Average hides in routines that feel productive but don't lead anywhere. You have to be sharp enough to recognize when you're coasting and strong enough to push beyond it. When you refuse to settle, you create momentum. Each step forward raises your baseline. What used to feel difficult becomes normal, and your expectations continue to rise. You build a mindset that's always looking for the next level instead of being satisfied with the current one. Over time, this approach changes everything. Your skills improve, your confidence grows, and your results begin to stand out. Not because you got lucky, But because you refused to accept less than what you're capable of and kept pushing forward without lowering your standard,